Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back to another UNC Hoops Talk podcast. We are back. The Tar Heels are back, and we're here to talk about it. Thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notifications bell. Thank you for listening later on the audio. Wherever you're listening to this, make sure you're subscribed so that you get this directly into your feed because we do not have a schedule. We come on here whenever we can make it work. But I do have Gil and Blake back with me, and we're going to talk about the turnaround, the bounce back that the Tar Heels have had. So Gil, Blake, how you guys doing? You guys ready to go tonight?
Yes, pumped
Ready
up.
to go.
Oh, you guys are pumped up. I can feel it already. I feel the energy. So uh, last time, I think I potted by myself, but we had just come off of Connecticut where we looked decent but lost to Purdue, now number one Purdue, and then looked pretty bad against Tennessee. So we've talked about that. Now we've turned it around. We beat a ranked Michigan team in Chapel Hill. And we went to Atlanta, beat Georgia Tech in a solid win. We beat Michigan pretty handily, and a good solid win, I would say, against Georgia Tech, even though none of us could see at least half of the game. Blake, let's start with you. How are you feeling now after this last week? Have we solved all of our problems?
Definitely not ready to say that yet. Certainly the game against UNC Asheville didn't make me feel any better. I don't think that game was nearly as good as the final score. Now, the next two games, on the other hand, they absolutely embarrassed Michigan. How good is Michigan? I don't know. Like, that's still the question I leave that game wondering. Is Michigan that good, or is Michigan just another, overrated team to begin the season? Because if Michigan ends up with 12 losses this season, then how good was that win? So, the thing is that it's a very small sample size. So, I don't want to judge, the end all be all, is Michigan and Georgia Tech. Same thing. Georgia Tech lost their, two best players from a season ago when they were the 2021, ACC champs. Like, I don't know really how this is going to unfold, and how good Georgia Tech's going to be. If they're a bottom three team, then that win means nothing, and that's how you should beat them. What I can say is that just the eye test, they played definitively harder than we saw them play against Tennessee. I think they played harder than they played against UNC Asheville. I think they kind of almost looked past UNC Asheville. It looked like it was very lackadaisical, and it didn't look good. But I think they played harder. I think they played better together. They looked like a more cohesive unit. Now, if that can continue, I think that there's really good things on the horizon for this team. But I think it's going to take another handful of games before we really know that. And I think the best game to really get that picture is UCLA.
All right, Gil, what do you think? We were talking about how bad our defense is. We held Michigan, a ranked Michigan at the time. Like Blake said, we don't know how good they are. At the time, they were ranked. We held them to 51 points. We got way down on Georgia Tech, came back, and like I said, pretty solid win, but looked pretty good defense. They had leading scorer in the country in DeVoe, and we not shut him down, but we held him to 13, 15 points, something like that. Have we solved our problems?
We've been playing much better defense, clamp down defense on the nation's leading scorer. Got a crucial piece in Michigan's Fisher, I believe is his name. They're big in foul trouble, which took him out of the game literally. And so we've been playing smarter as well. So although I do agree on some sentiments about Blake with we don't know what those teams ultimately are going to look like that we just defeated in Georgia Tech and Michigan, what I will say is those were great wins at this juncture, at this time, coming off of the Connecticut debacle, I'll say, in terms of how we played against Tennessee and then looking a little lethargic against UNC Asheville. We needed some get right games, and we got right against Michigan. We got right against Georgia Tech on the road early, getting an ACC win. So we're 1-0 in conference play in early December. That's what you want at this point in time. So I think those are good wins for this team who's still trying to mesh together and get the pieces in place, and the coaching staff who's, getting things figured out as well in terms of, their who they want to use personnel wise on the court and what kind of style they want to play. So some promising signs in terms of playing more as a team. The number of assists much improved from what we saw against Tennessee. So the team is starting to work better as a unit, both offensively and defensively. So taking away, like Blake said, from the eye test, I saw improvement that makes me pleased and a little bit more optimistic about this team moving forward.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think anybody that has watched this team has to agree we looked a lot better. There's not much you can say about the way we looked to Tennessee compared to the way we looked against Michigan. Obviously, we'll find out. Michigan, since we've played them, has won their next 2 games, but I don't know if I don't remember who they played. They played a conference game tonight, but they beat Iowa, I think, by a little bit, and I believe they played again tonight and won, but it wasn't anybody all that surprising that they beat. I think it was Nebraska, actually. So
it always looks better when the ball goes in the hoop. An old Royism.
I've heard that before. So yeah, we beat Michigan. We go on the road, a team that we've struggled with in Georgia Tech. But again, get a good win there. Congratulations to Hubert Davis, his first ACC win as a head coach. So we got to say congratulations to him. But looking a little bit more
at his first win against a ranked team, correct?
It's true. First ranked team against or ranked win against Michigan. Let's look a little bit though at us. And I mean, we talked about defense a little bit here and how we've looked better, and we shut down DeVoe, and we can talk about how we shut down Hutchinson for Michigan. I think it is, whatever his last name is. But that was probably mostly foul trouble more than us shutting him down. But going to our offense a little bit, Caleb led us 22 points against Michigan, 4 for 7 from 3. Dawson 14 in that game. Armando 11 and 14 in that game. And then Georgia Tech, RJ led us with 23. Caleb right behind with 17. Baycott 15. Manic with 15. RJ was 4 for 6 from 3. Caleb 3 for 5 from 3. A little bit. I'll let you go first, but a little bit on our offense. Just what's the best part about our offense? That we're one of the best 3-point shooting teams right now. But also, I think there, in there is, you don't know who it's going to be each night. It can be Caleb, it can be RJ, it can be Brady, it can be Armando. What do you like most about our offense right now?
Well, that's the beauty, is the versatility, and that we can come at you from different angles. It's always more challenging to stop a team that has multiple pieces that can hurt you. And case in point, when we played against Georgia Tech, I think that they are limited right now on the number of players that can actually hurt you. So if you shut that player or those 2 players down, then that greatly improves your chances of winning. Carolina now has 3-4 pieces that can go off for 15 or 20 points, and several of them on the same night. I think we had, did we have 4 players maybe that had scored 15 points against Georgia Tech? So we've got that versatility. We've got a little bit more offensive depth than we've seen in previous seasons. And I think maybe the guy from Michigan, we both have misspoken. Was it Hunter Dickinson? Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah. Dickinson.
I don't know.
UNC recruited him pretty hard.
Yeah. But yeah, offensively, this is a step above where the previous several seasons have been, which is a blessing, because that's something that all of us as Carolina fans have missed seeing. Offensive flow, rhythm, and scoring capability. Guys that can actually score the basketball in multiple ways, which makes it harder for defenders. Not only do you have the one guy that you're guarding and he can score on you in a number of different ways, there's several of those type of players on the court at the same time. And so when a guy gets hot, we're looking to feed him the ball. So, in the last game, it was RJ Davis, and we were feeding who's hot. And, in the previous game, it was Caleb Love, and we were feeding him and giving him the shot. So I think that maybe that is an adjustment that Hubert has made, is seeing who is the hot hand this night, and let's feed them and let's get them going.
Blake, you agree, disagree? What do you like best about our offense right now?
Well, obviously, I mean, any Carolina fan, anybody that's followed this team, the number one thing they should like about this team is the 3-point shooting. Okay, you're looking at a team that's shooting over 43%, almost 12 points higher than last year, 13 points higher than the season before. This team has struggled for a while shooting the 3. I mean, basically the last guy you can really think about that you even want to claim went to North Carolina is Cam Johnson. And, he's been in the pros for a few years now. And that's not to say that Kerwin Walton didn't have a fine season last year, but it doesn't really stand out in anyone's memory when you think about a team that shot 31%. He was the only guy.
And even by the Cole Anthony.
Even by the end of the season, Well, I don't know if you want to claim him for the few games that he played at Carolina, but you can claim him now. But the 3-point shooting has obviously been phenomenal. It's a game changer. So what I would say in terms of the scoring ability of multiple players, absolutely. I like that you've got multiple guys that can score the basketball. What I do want to see more of is consistency, because I don't know about you, but I sure enjoyed seeing Tyler Hansbrough score 20 like every game, basically. The most obviously the most consistent scorer this season in terms of actual points has been Caleb Love. Now I use that word very sparingly with him because he is a volume shooter at this point. He's going to take a lot of shots to score his points. So if he scores 17 points, he probably took 15 shots.
18.
I'm in general. He
Right.
probably took a lot of shots. That's something that you want to see go down. You want to see his efficiency go up. But even Caleb Love has had a few stinkers. He's had a game where he scored 4. He had a game where he scored 12. What do you do when the shots aren't falling and you don't have that consistent score? That's the concern. RJ Davis has scored 25 points in a game and scored 23 points. But if I'm not wrong, I think he scored like 4 in a game also. So when you look at these guys, if it were a flow chart, it would just be peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. So I would like to see somebody, I don't care who it is, be that consistent scorer. If everybody else wants to fluctuate, fine. But I want to see a guy go out there every single night and never score less than 15 points, and that's something that we haven't seen at North Carolina for a while. And, I really thought that Armando Bacot was going to be that guy, and he's near there. But even Bacot is having sort of peculiar stinker games, like you guys mentioned in Connecticut. I don't even know.
I think he had 2. I think when he was in foul trouble.
And he was in foul trouble all game long. He only played like 17 minutes, I think.
Right.
But you just can't have that in a big time matchup. I mean, that's a game where you're like, hey, this is an Elite 8, Final 4 caliber team. If North Carolina gets to the tournament, you can't have your, presumably most dominant player just melt, no matter who they're facing. So yes, I absolutely agree with Gil. I like the fact that you've got 6 guys on any given night that can score in double figures, but consistency would be key. And I say that, I thought that, and we both, Gil, and I think even you, Dan, talked about at the beginning of the season, Dawson Garcia may be the guy that leads this team in scoring. Last game was peculiar. The minutes played, the lack of impact. I don't know. It was really weird. So I am looking forward to finishing out this non-conference schedule, seeing games against Furman and UCLA, and then moving into conference play, how the minutes play out. I assume this bench has to get a little bit longer, but we'll see. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good pieces, and I think the defensive effort also is a huge key too.
Yeah, and I agree. One other thing I would add is something I like about our offense right now is I feel like I believe it was Georgia Tech, but even a little bit in Michigan, there was times where I said, and I think people even said it on Twitter and stuff like, hey, that looked like North Carolina basketball. That looked like UNC basketball. We just had some of those plays, and kind of like what you're saying, Blake, is it's been a couple of years, it feels like, since we've had a stretch where you could say that, oh man, we look like North Carolina basketball there for, again, 5-minute stretch, 10-minute stretch, whatever it is. So to me, that's just, again, refreshing that hopefully, and I know it looks different with the threes and big guys shooting threes and stuff like that. But again, we have those stretches, and that at least gives me a little confidence that we're going in the right direction. So just looking ahead now to what we do have, you mentioned the rest of the non-conference schedule. We have Elon coming up on Saturday. It's an 8 p.m. Eastern tip on ACC Network. And then the following Tuesday, we play Furman at home, 7 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN2. Again, hopefully some more of these get-right games, get some more confidence built up. Blake, where you were telling us, again, I'd heard Furman was a decent team, but you told us Elon isn't good. So I don't know if that's jinxing us or what, but anything else that you guys are worried about or looking for in those games? Blake, you want to go first? Just something real quick that you kind of want to get out of these 2 games here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mentioned, the 4 remaining non-conference games, and in my estimation, at least 2 of those should be blowouts. And, Furman too. Like, yeah, Furman's a solid team. They're a solid, small program, and they beat Louisville. They gave Louisville all they can handle, but it is a down year for Louisville, I think. And on paper, North Carolina should still beat them by double digits. Now, when it comes to the UCLA game, I think that's going to be very telling. I think you're going to have the best North Carolina team come out and play that game. I don't think UCLA is necessarily the best team in the country, but I certainly think they're better than Tennessee. I don't think they're necessarily better than Purdue on most nights, but it's going to take a really good effort. It's going to take shots falling. It's going to take a real defensive tenacity. But in my mind, truthfully, if they come out of that 4-game stretch anything less than 3-1, there's cause for concern, because Appalachian State is not good, Elon is not good, and Furman should be outmatched at every position from a North Carolina team that we saw just trounce their last 2 opponents.
All right. And again, the plan is to podcast before we get to UCLA, so I don't want to go into that too much. But just because Blake has mentioned it, we have UCLA, Appalachian State. That will be the end of non-conference. And then before the new year, we'll have Virginia Tech there the 29th of December. But Gil, sticking with the next 2 games here, the next week with Elon and Furman, that brings us through next Tuesday. What do you kind of look for as we, again, hopefully kind of continue this stride or a winning streak, whatever you want to call it?
Well, I think one thing that has been crucial so far is getting wins. And I fully expect us to get wins against Furman and against Elon. As Blake said, we're the better team. We have the better depth, roster, etc. So I expect us to get wins. But in so doing, how does Hubert continue to tap into his, the team chemistry? Let's see what he might be able to, because once we get through these 2 games, then we got, like you said, UCLA and Appalachian State, and then that's the end of non-conference. So you're stepping into conference. If there are players that haven't been playing, they're not going to get playing time in the conference, part of the season. So how will we start to see, does Dawson Garcia or Brady Manick actually, solidify their role as a starter, or is it going to continue to just flip-flop based on defensive grades? Are we going to start to see Anthony Harris getting consistent minutes as he did against Georgia Tech, or is it just going to be kind of a team-by-team scouting basis that we need you defensively more this game than another game? How does that rotation start to shake out? Is McCoy just, not going to really provide much of anything this year? Are the freshmen going to mostly just be cheerleaders? Will we see some opening of the rotation in some of these games? So I wanted to see Blake's reaction there.
That was a great transition there, Gil. You're hired. I'll double your pay right now.
Yes.
So
how do you double nothing? How do you double 0?
I just did. What do you mean? It's still 0, but it's doubled. You want it tripled? I can triple it. So yeah, we talked pre-show, and we're gonna save this until after the Elon Furman games when we podcast next week. Hopefully, you guys can make it, and hopefully everybody listening will tune in, because we've had some heated texts going back in our group text about this, the rotation, the way that Hubert doesn't use his bench, maybe how some guys haven't gotten playing time. Even Blake referenced it. Garcia didn't play in the second half of the Georgia Tech game. Curran Walton got 7 minutes or whatever it was in the first half and didn't play in the second half. So we're gonna try to go through this and kind of hash out what the right answer is. And I wanted to wait until after Elon and Furman, because there may be a potential blowout. Maybe guys get some playing time, maybe earn some extra minutes going forward. Obviously, we won't know that when we do it, but just to kind of see what these 2 games look like. If Hubert, because he keeps talking about getting guys minutes, and then he keeps a very short bench, and just kind of what our thoughts on it. And
he tightens it up after he says he's going to get these guys minutes. He
usually does, or he has. Again, Hubert's been a coach for what, 8 games now, 9 games, whatever we are now. So we kind of said it in the offseason, we have to give him a little leeway, whether it's wins and losses or just figuring things out. But here on the pod, we're going to try to hash that out next week on the pod. So make sure you don't miss that. Make sure you're subscribed. If you want to tune in live, make sure you, again, subscribe on YouTube and hit that notification bell so you get the notification that we're live, and you can jump in and join us in the conversation, leaving comments and telling us who's right, who you agree with, and who you don't. So I think that should be a fun one. So hopefully this is just a little tease there. I don't want to go too much into that one, but
Is that where we're going to leave it? I don't even get a rebuttal. You're just going to let him roll that off, and then we're just going to close it out.
Yeah, we're going to leave the rebuttal. You can start next time. I'll let you
can
go
I
first,
just say
Blake.
one thing? Can I just say that
I always get the last word.
People are complaining about Hubert Davis and what he says, right? I mean, I'm having people on Twitter tell me that they don't like that he's saying that he's going to get them minutes. Okay. At what point did this misconception start that Hubert Davis owes anybody or an answer? He doesn't. Like, this is sports. This is college sports. It's professional sports. I mean, we've literally got coaches in college football that say on a Tuesday they're not going to accept a job, and on Wednesday they're gone. Like, he owes us an answer, and he owes us the truth. No, he doesn't owe anything. He owes nothing. He's not going to say, no, these guys, trust me, if you were in practice, you wouldn't play them either. Like, he's not going to say that. Okay, you're not going to sit there and throw your guys under the bus. But at the same time, like, you know, if they're not good enough to play, you can't play them. Okay? And the problem is, too, and then I'll shut up.
All right.
And then I'll shut up. Look, at the beginning of seasons years ago, it was like cupcake, right? But over time, we continue to add more tournaments and more marquee matchups, Champions Classic, CBS Sports, Maui Invitational, you know, bam, 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 ranked team against ranked team over and over and over, okay? You start a season like that, it's going to be tough to get freshman minutes if those freshmen aren't game ready, okay? On top of it, North Carolina comes out and starts the season really not very well. They were playing very close games against, like, Brown and, like, your uncle, okay? So, like, obviously they're not going to get in those games if they're very close games, right? So it's been difficult to find the minutes. Does he want to find the minutes? I'm sure. But guess what? That also requires winning games by a whole heck of a lot. And I just don't know if you want to do that in a Michigan game against a top 25 team, against a team that you have struggled with in recent history, even in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, right? Like, you've struggled in that tournament with Michigan. You're like, oh, I'm up 14, so I'm going to throw in a guy that's got 0 college minutes. Sure, why not? Like, just because, you know, we don't want him to transfer. What? Like, let him transfer.
Hey, my uncle has game, Blake.
You know what? Your uncle might have beaten North Carolina the first 3 games of the season. I don't even know.
All right, so you guys have heard how heated Blake is on this situation. So come back, make sure you're here live to either join in with Blake or to go at Blake in this.
If they want to transfer, let
Now
them
I
transfer.
feel like I don't get a
If they
chance.
want to transfer, let them.
All right, we are ending there. Heels on a great week this week. We got Elon and Furman coming up till the next podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, guys. We love you. Until next time,
Play the freshmen.
go Heels.